The gunshot echoed through the dusty streets of Whispering Pines as Abigail Ellis ran barefoot across the wooden boardwalk, her torn chemise barely covering her shivering body. The cold Montana night air of 1875 bit at her skin as she fled the Red Rose Saloon, the only brothel in town, leaving behind 3 years of captivity and the dead body of Jeremiah Sloan, the man who had kept her there against her will. Blood splattered her pale face and trembling hands, but it wasn't hers. In the chaos following the shooting, she had grabbed nothing but a thin shawl that now fluttered uselessly around her shoulders as she raced toward the darkness beyond the town limits. Behind her, angry voices grew louder. "Find her! That whore killed Jeremiah." Abigail's heart hammered against her ribs. She hadn't pulled the trigger. It had been one of Jeremiah's drunken customers in a dispute over cards, but she knew she'd be blamed regardless. When the shot rang out and everyone scattered, she had seen her chance and taken it. The moon cast long shadows as she stumbled down the hill toward the creek that bordered the south side of town. Her feet, accustomed only to wooden floors and plush carpets for years, bled from sharp rocks and broken glass. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't dare make a sound. At 22, having been taken at 19 after her parents died in a wagon accident, Abigail had learned that silence meant survival. She collapsed behind a large boulder near the water's edge, her chest heaving as she struggled to catch her breath. The sounds of the search party grew more distant, but she knew they wouldn't give up easily. Jeremiah had been a powerful man in Whispering Pines, a businessman who owned not just the brothel but the general store and had the sheriff in his pocket. As dawn approached, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Abigail realized she couldn't stay put. The search would expand once daylight arrived. She needed to move, to find somewhere to hide until she could figure out what to do next. With nothing but her torn clothes and the shame that clung to her like a second skin, she pushed herself up and followed the creek southward. By midday, the Montana sun beat down mercilessly. Abigail's fair skin burned, her lips cracked from thirst. She had drunk from the creek earlier, but was now traversing more open country, heading toward a distant line of trees that promised shelter. Her legs trembled with exhaustion, and hunger gnawed at her empty stomach. The sound of hoofbeats made her freeze. Panicking, she looked around for somewhere to hide, but the flat terrain offered no refuge. Dropping to the ground, she pressed herself against the earth, praying whoever approached would pass her by. The rider slowed, then stopped. "Madam, are you all right?" The voice was deep, concerned rather than threatening. Still, Abigail remained motionless, afraid to look up. "I ain't gonna hurt you," the man said, dismounting. His boots crunched on the dry grass as he approached. "You're bleeding." Slowly, Abigail raised her head. The man standing above her wore a dusty black Stetson that shadowed his face. His tall frame was clad in simple work clothes, worn denim pants, a faded blue shirt, and a leather vest. A gun belt hung at his hip, but his hand rested far from it. "Please," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Don't take me back." The man crouched down, keeping a respectful distance. When he tilted his head, sunlight revealed a face weathered by years under the open sky but kind around the eyes. He appeared to be in his early 30s, with a strong jaw covered in several days' worth of stubble. "Back where?" he asked gently. "Whispering Pines. The Red Rose." Shame made her look away as understanding dawned in his eyes. The man was quiet for a moment. "My name's Caleb Kane. I've got a small ranch about an hour's ride from here. You look like you could use some food, water, and proper clothes. I'd be happy to help if you'll let me." Abigail studied him warily. She'd learned not to trust men's offers of help. As if reading her thoughts, Caleb slowly removed his bandana and offered it to her. "For your cuts. And I give you my word, I mean no harm. You can ride my horse and I'll walk alongside." Something in his steady gaze made Abigail believe him, or perhaps desperation simply outweighed caution. With trembling fingers, she took the bandana. "Abigail," she said softly. "Abigail Ellis." Caleb nodded, standing slowly to avoid startling her. "Well, Miss Ellis, seems to me you've had a rough time of it. Let's get you somewhere safe." He helped her onto his horse, a sturdy buckskin gelding, then handed her his canteen. As promised, he walked beside the horse, leading it by the reins. Abigail drank gratefully, the water soothing her parched throat. "They'll be looking for me," she said after a while. "A man was killed last night at the brothel. I didn't do it, but they'll say I did." Caleb glanced up at her, his expression unreadable. "Jeremiah Sloan." Abigail tensed. "You know him?" "Know of him. Most folks in these parts do. Not many speak well of him, though they do so quietly." He paused. "Been meaning to ride into town today anyway. Might be good to hear what's being said." Fear clutched at Abigail's heart. "You're taking me to town." "No, madam," Caleb assured her. "Taking you to my ranch first. My sister Martha's there. You'll be safe with her while I gather some information. If what you say is true, we need to know what we're up against." As they traveled, the landscape gradually changed from open prairie to rolling hills dotted with pine trees. Eventually, a small but well-maintained ranch came into view. A modest one-story house sat nestled against a hillside, with a barn, corral, and several outbuildings nearby. Smoke curled from the chimney and chickens pecked in the yard. A woman emerged from the house as they approached, tall and lanky like her brother, with her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. Her eyes widened at the sight of Abigail. "Caleb Kane, what on earth?" she exclaimed, hurrying forward. "Martha, this is Miss Ellis. She needs our help," Caleb explained simply. Martha took one look at Abigail's condition and her expression softened immediately. "Of course she does. Come inside, dear." With gentle hands, Martha helped Abigail down from the horse and supported her as they walked to the house. Caleb remained outside, tending to his horse. Inside, the home was simple but clean and warm. Martha led Abigail to a small bedroom and helped her onto a chair. "Let me draw you a bath," she said kindly, "and find you some proper clothes, then we'll see to those wounds." Tears filled Abigail's eyes at the unexpected kindness. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Martha smiled. "Caleb's got good judgment about people, always has. If he brought you here, there's a reason." She patted Abigail's shoulder. "Rest now. You're safe." The bath was heaven-hot water that washed away not just the dirt and blood but seemed to soften the edges of Abigail's shame. Martha had provided a simple cotton dress, slightly too large but clean and whole. After bathing, Martha helped tend to Abigail's cuts and blisters, then led her to the kitchen where a bowl of stew waited. "Eat slowly," Martha advised. "Your stomach will need time to adjust." As Abigail ate, she heard Caleb's boots on the porch. He entered, removing his hat and hanging it on a peg by the door. His eyes found Abigail, and a small smile touched his lips. "You're looking better already, Miss Ellis." "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything." He nodded, pouring himself a cup of coffee before sitting at the table. "I'm heading into town soon. Need to know what we're dealing with." "I should go," Abigail said suddenly. "I'm putting you both in danger." "Nonsense," Martha declared. "You're staying right here until you're properly healed." Caleb studied Abigail thoughtfully. "How'd you end up at the Red Rose, if you don't mind my asking?" Abigail set down her spoon, appetite suddenly gone. "My parents and I were traveling west from Pennsylvania. They died when our wagon overturned crossing a river. I was injured but survived. Jeremiah found me, said he'd help me recover at his establishment. I was naive. By the time I realized what kind of place it was too late. He kept me locked in, said I owed him for my care. Martha made a sound of disgust. That man has always been a snake. 3 years, Abigail whispered. I tried to escape twice before. He made examples of me. Caleb's jaw tightened, his knuckles white around his coffee cup. No one deserves that. No one. The man who shot him, one of the regulars, they were arguing over cards. When it happened, everyone scattered. I just ran. Smart move, Caleb said. I'll find out what's being said, maybe talk to Sheriff Wilson if I think it'll help. Sheriff Wilson is in Jeremiah's pocket, Abigail warned. Maybe so, but he still has to keep up appearances. Caleb stood. I'll be back before dark. Martha will take good care of you. After he left, Martha showed Abigail around the small ranch. The Kanes had inherited it from their parents 5 years earlier. They ran a modest operation with a small herd of cattle, some chickens, and a vegetable garden. Martha explained that Caleb had fought in the war as a young man, returning with a quieter disposition but a stronger sense of justice. He doesn't talk much, Martha said, but when he does, people listen. He's respected in these parts. By the time Caleb returned that evening, Abigail had helped Martha prepare dinner and was feeling stronger, though anxiety still churned in her stomach. She watched nervously as he entered, hanging up his hat and washing his hands at the basin. Well, Martha asked, setting a plate before him. Caleb sat heavily. They're searching for you, Miss Ellis, claiming you shot Jeremiah and stole money from his safe. Abigail's heart sank. I didn't take anything. I didn't even know he was dead until I was halfway out the door. I believe you, Caleb said firmly. And luckily, there might be someone else who does too. A woman named Pearl from the Red Rose pulled me aside, said she saw everything, that it was Hank Miller who shot Jeremiah during a card game, said she'd testify to it if she could do so safely. Pearl, Abigail's eyes widened. She's the oldest girl there. Jeremiah trusted her to keep the rest of us in line. Well, seems she's had enough too. Told me Jeremiah's brother Vernon is taking over the business and is even worse than Jeremiah was. Caleb took a bite of stew. Problem is, Vernon's telling everyone you shot his brother and stole $50 from the safe. Sheriff's got a small posse looking for you. What do we do? Martha asked. For now, we keep Miss Ellis hidden here. I spread word in town that I was heading to Helena on business, so no one should come looking this way. He turned to Abigail. Pearl mentioned something else, said Jeremiah kept papers on all his girls. Proof of debts, she called it. Said yours would be in his office. He always told me I owed him more than I could ever repay, Abigail said bitterly. If we could get those papers, we might have leverage. It's too dangerous, Abigail protested. The Red Rose is always guarded, especially the office. I'll figure something out, Caleb said. But first, you need to rest and heal. The next week passed in a strange, peaceful rhythm. Abigail's body recovered quickly with proper food and rest. She insisted on helping around the ranch, learning to feed chickens, tend the garden, and assist Martha with household chores. The work was honest and satisfying in a way she had almost forgotten. Caleb maintained a respectful distance, but Abigail often caught him watching her with a thoughtful expression. One evening, as she sat on the porch watching the sunset, he joined her, offering a cup of coffee. "Thank you," she said, accepting it gratefully. The nights were growing cooler as autumn approached. "You've taken to ranch life quickly," he observed, leaning against the porch railing. Abigail smiled slightly. "It reminds me of my childhood. My father had a small farm in Pennsylvania." "Do you miss it? Every day?" She sipped her coffee. "But I've learned that dwelling on the past only makes the present harder to bear." Caleb nodded, understanding in his eyes. Smart philosophy. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching as stars began to appear in the darkening sky. "Why are you helping me?" Abigail finally asked the question that had been lingering in her mind. "You're risking a lot." Caleb considered her question. "My pa used to say a man's character is defined by what he does when no one's watching. Helping someone in need isn't a risk, it's just the right thing to do." "Most men wouldn't see it that way. Not for someone like me." Caleb's gaze sharpened. "Someone like you, a fallen woman." You're a survivor," he interrupted firmly. "Nothing less. What happened to you doesn't define who you are. The world doesn't see it that way." "Then the world's wrong." He set down his cup. "My mother used to say people are like gold ore. Some are found in plain sight, shining in the stream bed. Others get buried under layers of dirt and rock, but that doesn't make them any less valuable. Just means they need someone willing to dig a little." Abigail felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm not sure there's much gold left to find in me." Caleb's voice was gentle but certain. "You're worth more than gold, Miss Ellis. Don't let anyone tell you different." The conviction in his words struck Abigail deeply. No one had spoken to her with such respect in years. She looked away, afraid he would see the emotion on her face. The next morning, Caleb announced he would be making another trip to town. "Pearl sent word through a friend. Says Vernon's planning to leave for Butte in 3 days to meet with some business associates. The Red Rose will be less guarded then." "You're going to break in?" Martha asked, alarmed. "Going to try. Those papers might be the only way to clear Miss Ellis's name." "Call me Abigail, please," she said. "And I should be the one to go. I know the layout of the place where Jeremiah kept his important documents." "Absolutely not," Caleb said firmly. "It's too dangerous." "More dangerous for you," she countered. "You'd be recognized instantly as a stranger. I can slip in through the back entrance the girls use for laundry. No one will look twice at another woman in that place." "Until Vernon or one of his men recognizes you," Caleb argued. "I can help with that," Martha interjected. She looked at Abigail appraisingly. "We could change your appearance, cut and color your hair, give you different clothes." Caleb ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "This is a terrible idea." "It's my life at stake," Abigail said quietly. "Please, let me try." The determination in her eyes must have swayed him. "Fine, but I'm coming with you. I'll wait outside, close enough to help if things go wrong." 2 days later, Abigail barely recognized herself in Martha's small hand mirror. Her long blonde hair had been cut short and darkened with walnut dye to a rich brown. Martha had altered one of her old dresses, making it more revealing than Abigail would have preferred, but appropriate for a woman seeking work at the Red Rose. "Remember," Caleb said as they prepared to leave, "if anything feels wrong, you get out immediately. The papers aren't worth your safety." They rode double on Caleb's horse until they were within walking distance of town, then separated. Caleb would position himself behind the brothel, while Abigail would approach from the main street as a new girl looking for work. Her heart pounded as she walked through the familiar doors of the Red Rose. The smell of cheap perfume, whiskey, and smoke hit her like a physical force, bringing back memories she tried to suppress. The main parlor was already filling with early evening customers, but none of the men paid her much attention, just another working girl. "Can I help you?" A woman in her 40s approached, eyeing Abigail suspiciously. "I heard you might be hiring," Abigail said, pitching her voice slightly lower than normal. "I worked at Miss Lily's in Helena until it closed last month." The woman, the new madam, Abigail guessed, looked her up and down. "Vernon handles the hiring, but he's out of town. Come back in 2 days. Please," Abigail pressed. "I haven't eaten in days. I could just clean up or help in the kitchen until he returns." The madam hesitated, then shrugged. "Fine. Kitchen's through there. Tell cook that Margaret said you can help for a meal." Abigail thanked her and moved toward the kitchen, but as soon as the madam turned away, she slipped down the hallway toward Jeremiah's, now Vernon's, office. She knew the girls would be busy with customers, giving her a small window of opportunity. The office door was locked, but Abigail had watched Jeremiah unlock it countless times. She removed a hairpin from her newly darkened hair and, with trembling fingers, worked it into the lock until she heard a satisfying click. Inside, the office looked much as she remembered: a large desk dominating the space, shelves of ledgers, and a small safe in the corner. She moved quickly to the desk, opening drawers and rifling through papers. In the bottom drawer, she found what she was looking for: a wooden box containing folders with girls' names. She located hers and was about to open it when she heard voices in the hallway. Quickly, she tucked the folder into her bodice and pushed the drawer shut. The voices grew louder, then passed by. Abigail released a shaky breath and turned to leave. The door opened. A tall, thin man stood in the doorway, his resemblance to Jeremiah unmistakable despite his more refined appearance. Vernon Sloane. "I don't believe we've met," he said smoothly, closing the door behind him. "And I certainly don't recall giving you permission to be in my office." Abigail's mind raced. "Forgive me, sir. Margaret said I could wait for you here. I'm looking for work." Vernon's eyes narrowed. "Margaret wouldn't say that." He stepped closer. "You look familiar. Have we met before?" "No, sir." Abigail backed away, bumping into the desk. "I just arrived in town." Vernon reached out suddenly, grabbing a lock of her hair. "Interesting. This dye job is fresh, almost as if someone's trying to hide their natural color." His grip tightened. "Like a blonde, perhaps." Panic surged through Abigail as recognition dawned in his eyes. "You're her. The little whore who killed my brother." "I didn't kill anyone," Abigail said, trying to pull away. Vernon's hand shot out, slapping her hard across the face. "Lying bitch. You're going to pay for what you did." He reached for her again, but Abigail was ready. She grabbed a heavy paperweight from the desk and swung it with all her might, striking Vernon's temple. He staggered, momentarily stunned, giving her the chance to dart around him and fling open the door. "Stop her!" Vernon shouted as she ran down the hallway. Abigail pushed past startled customers and girls, heading for the back door. Behind her, she heard the commotion as Vernon's men gave chase. She burst through the rear entrance into the alley, heart hammering. "Caleb," she called desperately. A shadow moved, and suddenly Caleb was there, grabbing her hand. "This way." They ran through back alleys, the sounds of pursuit growing more distant. Caleb led her to where he'd tethered his horse at the edge of town. They mounted quickly, Caleb's arms around her as he urged the horse into a gallop. "Did you get it?" he asked as they rode. "Yes," Abigail gasped, still breathless from fear and exertion. She pulled the folder from her bodice. "Vernon saw me. He knows I'm alive. We'll worry about that later. For now, let's get you home." Home. The word sent a strange warmth through Abigail's chest. Despite their danger, back at the ranch, Martha was waiting anxiously. She ushered them inside, locking the door behind them. "Thank God you're both safe," she said, hugging Abigail. "Did you find what you needed?" Abigail placed the folder on the table with shaking hands. Inside were documents showing her debt to Jeremiah, an astronomical sum no one could ever hope to repay, ensuring she would remain his prisoner forever. But there was something else: a deed of ownership. "He claimed to own me," Abigail whispered, horror and rage mingling in her voice. "He forged papers saying I was indentured to him." Caleb examined the documents carefully. "These are illegal. Slavery's been abolished for years. This is criminal." "Will it help clear my name?" Abigail asked. "It proves Jeremiah was holding you against your will," Caleb said, "but Vernon will still claim you killed his brother." "We need Pearl's testimony," Martha said. Caleb nodded. And we need someone higher than Sheriff Wilson to hear it. The federal marshal comes through Great Falls every month. We could bring this to him. Vernon won't stop looking for me, Abigail said. No, Caleb agreed, which is why we need to leave first thing tomorrow. The journey to Great Falls took 3 days. They traveled cautiously, avoiding main roads and keeping watch for pursuers. Caleb sent word ahead to Pearl through a trusted friend, asking her to meet them there. The town of Great Falls was larger than Whispering Pines, bustling with activity from the mining operations in the surrounding hills. They took rooms at a modest boarding house, with Caleb posing as Abigail's husband and Martha as his sister. As they waited for the marshal's arrival, Abigail found herself drawn more and more to Caleb. His quiet strength and unwavering belief in her worth had begun to heal something broken inside her. One evening, as they walked along the river that gave the town its name, she found the courage to voice her feelings. "I don't know how to thank you," she said as they watched the water rush over the falls. "You risked everything for a stranger." Caleb looked at her thoughtfully. "You're not a stranger anymore, Abigail." The way he said her name made her heart flutter. "No, I suppose not." "When this is over," he said carefully, "what will you do?" The question caught her off guard. She hadn't allowed herself to think beyond clearing her name. "I don't know. I have no family, no money, no home." "You could stay," Caleb said, his voice soft but clear above the roar of the falls. "With us, with me." Abigail turned to face him, searching his eyes. "As what?" Caleb took her hand gently. "As whatever you want to be, a partner if you'd consider it. I know it's too soon to speak of more, but I've grown to care for you, Abigail, deeply." Tears filled her eyes. "How can you want me, after everything, knowing what I've been?" "What happened to you doesn't change who you are," Caleb said firmly. "And who you are is a woman of extraordinary courage and dignity, a woman worth cherishing." He hesitated, then continued. "I understand if you need time or if your answer is no. You've had too many choices taken from you. I won't be another man who does that." Abigail stepped closer to him, her heart full. "My answer isn't no." Relief and joy spread across Caleb's face. Slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished, he leaned down and kissed her softly. It was gentle, respectful, everything her experiences with men had not been. When they parted, Abigail felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The next day, Pearl arrived in Great Falls, nervous but determined to tell the truth. The day after that, the federal marshal heard their case. With Pearl's testimony about Hank Miller shooting Jeremiah in a drunken rage, the illegal ownership documents, and evidence of other crimes the Sloan brothers had committed, the marshal issued orders for Vernon's arrest and formally cleared Abigail's name. "It will take time for word to spread," the marshal warned. "And men like Vernon Sloan have friends in low places. You should be cautious for a while yet." As they prepared to return to the ranch, Abigail felt a strange mixture of emotions: relief at her freedom, hope for her future with Caleb, but also a lingering fear that her past would always shadow her. Caleb seemed to sense her thoughts. As they rode side by side, he reached over to take her hand. "One day at a time," he said. "That's all any of us can do." Abigail nodded, squeezing his hand. "One day at a time." 6 months later, on a crisp spring morning, Abigail stood on the porch of the Kane Ranch, now her home, too, watching as Caleb worked with a new colt in the corral. Martha had left a month earlier, having accepted a teaching position in Helena, though she promised to visit often. Word had come that Vernon Sloan had been captured trying to flee to Canada and would stand trial for numerous crimes. The Red Rose had been closed down, and the women who had worked there were being helped by a church group in Great Falls. Abigail had nightmares sometimes, waking in a cold sweat believing she was back in that place. But Caleb was always there, holding her gently, reminding her she was safe, she was free, she was loved. As she watched him now, his strong hands gentle with the nervous young horse, Abigail touched the simple gold band on her finger. They had married quietly 2 months ago, with Martha and a few of Caleb's friends as witnesses. It had been a happy day, but this ordinary morning watching her husband work, knowing she was truly home, brought an even deeper contentment. Caleb looked up, catching her eye. He smiled, that special smile that was just for her, and tipped his hat. Abigail laughed, the sound carried away by the Montana breeze. She had escaped the brothel with nothing but shame, but she had found something far more precious, a man who saw her worth beyond any price. A life rebuilt on respect and love, and the freedom to become the woman she was meant to be. As Caleb finished with the colt and walked toward her, Abigail descended the porch steps to meet him halfway. The past would always be part of her, but it no longer defined her. Here, in this man's arms, under this vast Montana sky, she had found her true value. And it was, indeed, worth more than gold.